We live now. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. I'm happy to have you today versus your avatar. I wasn't really sure who was going to show up today, you or the avatar.
Me or the avatar? Listen, why is everybody clowning the Facebook avatars? I think it's so cute. It's so fun.
I, you know, I'm
They're
really
not
not.
super accurate, but they're cute. Listen, why?
I'm not a fan, man. I'm not a fan because it's not accurate. I mean, I'm in between, so it's always hard to kind of capture
I've
me
never seen
completely.
yours.
You never seen mine. Nobody's ever gonna see mine because it's
What
just
ever gonna see it?
my
Why?
nose isn't right. Like I need a little bit of accuracy. It don't have to be me, but it just has to be a little bit better. So, um, but you are the queen of avatars, clear.
I like them.
You have quite a bit of avatars. Even from the iPhone, you were like one of the first people that had those when they first converted. But
And yo, my iPhone avatar was dead on. It was. I
right,
thought, like,
right,
when I
yeah,
braid my hair again. I
you
loved
could
my.
you could get arrested off your avatar. Like they're like, oh, that's her. It's the same person.
What
So
it is though, and we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. But
sure, sure,
the avatars are a hot topic because all up and down our timelines,
right.
people are like, your avatar doesn't look like you. These
Yeah,
avatars are crazy,
I'm
yo.
not trying to be in that number, man. I just
What? Let us see it, Hans.
Yeah, I put like the big dashiki on mine and a
I
beret.
did too,
Like
of
I was
course.
getting really creative with
I was
with my
trying to get as close
avatar.
to some African print as possible, and that was the
Yeah,
only thing
yeah,
I could
yeah.
rock
My brother. I'm overachieving on the print and
with.
the garb, so to
Right.
speak. But cool, man. Glad to have you today.
Thank
Ladies and
you.
gentlemen, everybody, welcome to Thinking Out Loud podcast with my great friend Lila Mays. We going
Hey.
live. She's my alter ego, my conscious. In real life, from my many radical Facebook posts. When I get a call from her, I know, it's a it's a
You struck a
serious.
nerve.
Yeah, I struck a nerve. So hopefully today we'll strike some nerves. We got a lot of cool things, to talk about. Yesterday was the 95th birthday of El Haj Malik Shabazz, more commonly known as Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I was invited to actually lend my voice to a live broadcast on um, the Shabazz Institute Facebook page. They did an amazing live stream. Ilyasa Shabazz put it together. My dear friend Mickey reached out, and I can't really articulate how amazing it was to actually be included, in that. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go to their Facebook page or YouTube page to check it out. But
That's so awesome, huh? So you have a relationship with them?
one of the organizers, a friend Mickey, who's in the industry as well, she reached out after she saw one of the podcasts, and she was like, "Hey, now that
Oh,
you're in front of the camera, I
right.
want to, invite you to be a part of this." And I mean, in my wildest dreams, I don't believe I'm worthy, right, to speak on Malcolm X, to like even step into, his space. But I have a fun fact, actually. This is a Hans fun fact. And I didn't actually tell you this before we got started, but um, my great aunt moved to Harlem from North Carolina in the 40s. And
Mhm.
she was a secretary and socialite. And she
Okay.
was dear friends with Percy Sutton, who was, the owner of the Apollo and also Malcolm X's attorney. She knew many people of that era, from Sugar Ray Robinson to even Martin Luther King as well. When my parents were expecting me, she insisted that the first black female OBGYN in New York City, Miss Josephine English, to, be my mother's OBGYN to deliver me.
Wow.
She was also known for, not known for, but she also delivered all of Malcolm X's children.
Okay. All
So,
right.
so
Wow.
that's like a Hans fun fact, that the same OBGYN that, helped bring me into this world also, helped bring all of Malcolm X's daughters, into this world. So, that's always like a small personal connection that I have to, him, and I guess his legacy, literally his legacy. So yeah, that was kind of an honor, you know. But when did you first get introduced to Malcolm X? Like, what
I,
was?
I think my story is similar to so many of us.
Mhm.
We heard bits and pieces of him. Well, I can only speak for I heard bits and pieces about Malcolm X when I was a kid,
Right,
as the radical.
right,
Um, it wasn't until I got to college, my first year at San Diego State, that I was introduced to the autobiography, right? And I was like,
okay,
oh,
right,
oh, this is a way bigger story. I mean, I didn't hear about his entire journey. And so reading that book, I mean, I remember being consumed. I read it in a few days because I was like, who knew? I had never
right.
heard the entire story. And I hadn't even heard about his criminal past, right? I
Sure,
just knew he was this the one thing that stands out was By Any Means Necessary.
right,
That was the Malcolm X I grew up hearing
sure,
about. So yeah, it wasn't until I was away from home, and I think it wasn't even prescribed reading in my African American history studies, but
right.
there was some real woke people.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
about to say, don't deny your woke college years.
yeah, I'm not. I
Like,
can't.
yeah, everybody had those woke college years.
Yeah, so there were some woke folks, and they were like, "You got to read this book." And so for me,
Right,
just gosh, diving into his past, and then who he was, how he came up as a minister, in
sure,
the ranks, and then his whole transformation before he died, when he took his trip to Mecca, and he was like,
right,
"This is not, this is we got to get to a different space. This isn't a
yeah,
hate situation. This is,
sure.
we're all
He
people."
started expanding. Yeah, I think for me, my introduction wasn't actually from, I guess, the home space, given my connection, but
Mhm.
it was through hip hop. Like, I feel
Okay.
like, if it wasn't, I don't think my dad ever mentioned Malcolm X or my mother, but Chuck D and KRS-One,
Yeah.
like, for me, that's when my kind of soul just kind of started stirring, when those voices kind of surfaced, and that was the first introduction. And I haven't actually read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I know I'm putting my hands up because I might get stoned for that, but as
Black
much as I research,
hard.
yeah.
What?
But right, it's crazy, right? But I do a lot of research outside,
You do.
and it's to kind of speak to what you shared about his criminal past and how that was
Mhm.
like a big thing to you. I think part of his legacy, in a sense, kind of not, it doesn't pain me, but we look at him in that context like he was just a hardened criminal, and then he transformed, and we don't really share much about his life prior, right? Like,
Right.
to his criminal life per se, and how he arrived there, and you
Right.
know um and also, back to his pilgrimage to Mecca. I want to kind of point to his older sister.
Okay.
So his older sister Ella was his half sister. His father, had two wives. So through
Mhm.
the first marriage, he had a group of siblings. He had like close to 9 siblings or something like that. So
Y'all sit down, and you about to learn. He about to learn.
no, but Ella, what people, nobody speaks about her, right? She was
Right.
also a secretary. She was a secretary to Adam Clayton Powell. So she
Wow.
he lived in Boston. She adopted him after his father died, and his mother had a nervous breakdown. and she was institutionalized. He was homeless. He lived with a neighbor. He was shifted around, and then she went and took custody of him and brought him to Boston, to Roxbury, where he essentially was raised from his junior high years all the way up until his adulthood. So she was really, an accomplished woman in her own right. She helped founded the first mosque in Boston, when he was, when he had accepted the faith and brought her in. And, on the backside, she was the one that funded his transformation. So when he decided to take his Hajj to Mecca, his sister gave him the money to do it.
I did do some my research about that, because I was always curious, things had gone so wrong with the nation, and he was just kind of on his own, kind of figuring out his own way. I was like, where did he get the money to even do all of that? So I think that's a really important fact.
It's just it's a fun, maybe not, I would say fun fact, but it is kind of his history continues to grow, right? Because we learn a lot more about him each year, and I just feel like this is one of, this is a part of his history that was kind of omitted from the film. I don't recall her being included in.
She's not. I don't remember. Maybe a little bit in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, I was reading some excerpts this morning. Yeah, there was a highlight. His brother Reginald, that he lived with in Harlem, he wasn't in the film. And as a filmmaker myself, I understand that you only have so much time to tell the story, right?
Right. There's only so many parts of the story you can tell.
Right. You have to kind of cut out certain things. You have to collapse characters, like the brother in jail in the film, from what I understand, wasn't just one. It was multiple, so they created a character that kind of embodied. And that's Hollywood, so it doesn't, it's not a revised history, but it's kind of like a modified history, that kind of keeps the course, but keeps it entertaining and, keeps people's attention. So
tell the people what you talked about yesterday when you had this opportunity to speak.
What did I say?
Did you get into, I know they asked you what Malcolm X means to you. So
Sure. I sent the video clip that was like 1 minute and 30 seconds. They didn't use it all. Thank God, because I was freestyling, I didn't really write anything down. But what was key for me, which they did capture, was images of manhood, as a Black man, and the options of manhood growing up. I was fortunate to have a relationship with my father. Yeah. We didn't live in the same house most of my life. I had a relationship with my grandfather. I had uncles, and I had the community, but as a celebrity, Malcolm X was a celebrity to me by way of hip hop. But he was this definition of Black manhood that was kind of peak in my book. It was kind of like, we can point to the soul singers, rappers, athletes, but Malcolm X was like this, plateau, like he was like the final stage of what Black manhood could encompass, and I think in many ways, so many fall short. And the reason why is that he was unapologetic, period. Yes. And you grow up in this society as a Black person apologizing, like racism creates an environment where you're constantly apologizing for your completeness. Like you never really, we rarely access everything in we go into the corporate space, we go into any job space, not just a corporate space, but you acquiesce, to a certain degree. But
hold on, Hans, that's heavy. Say that again. You said we apologize for our completeness.
Yeah. We apologize, not necessarily for it, but by not accessing it, we apologize. Right. You know what I mean? Like by not being 100% who we are, there's a unspoken apology, that we're
to make other people comfortable.
Always, as a big person, like when I walk down the street, I've always been kind of conditioned to slide to the side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if somebody's walking, it's like I'll create a little space because I know that my shoulders are broad.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if I didn't. You know, it's like imagine if I just walked upright and I didn't do this. I just knocked people down, you know, that were in my way. And I feel like what is often not shared or spoken on in terms of our generation of hip hop and what hip hop, you know, part of what I said in the video was that Malcolm X was resurrected through hip hop in Generation X, you know, and it was kind of poetic, like, oh shit, Generation X, Malcolm X, you know, but that was just me like blue skying, but it was really authentic to me because my dad, who fought in Vietnam, who was a militant in his mind to the extreme, you know, hit me to racism at every turn. He still had the trauma of the assassination of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Wow. There was still something in his mind that he knew that he could only, that there was a danger lurking. Like, you know, like you can't really be yourself completely in the open because they'll kill you. You know, when I got in the music business, he was like, you know, he was scared. Mm-hmm. You know, like in many ways, I mean, he's my pop was 6'3", real tough guy, but he was scared for me because he knew that black people were not covered, right? We didn't have no protection. You know, you go into these spaces, you're gonna get taken, and ain't nobody here to save you. You know, this society is not going to protect you from predators, you know, that exist in these spaces. So I think a lot of that came from, you know, having clear knowledge and being present when two powerful leaders were assassinated. We don't have that. We haven't seen that, you know.
And I think really important to note that I'm echoing.
Oh, you are? I can hear you clearly with no echo.
I feel it's really important to note that the nation and the world really mourned the death of MLK differently, right? But when we started to come into our generation, and come into the knowledge of who Malcolm was completely,
right?
You know, was different. And when I think about that, I'm like, you know, just personally, he just did not get his props.
No. You know, which is part of the reason why they did the celebration yesterday, because he's kind of left out in many ways. And to MLK, I think I've grown, you know, back then, 80s, early 90s, you know, we have a notion of Martin Luther King as the docile one, right? Like the weak to go along, you know, because of nonviolence. And I think even as I get older, my respect level for him goes up, you know, because of because of how much it took for him.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think later in life, those guys, you know, they started to build a bridge, you know, and I think that was where the fear really existed. Like, imagine if, you know, the two of them would have really engaged. And be clear, we celebrate both of them right now, but during that time, it wasn't a unified Black support for either one of them. You know, they were dismissed left and right by Black people who didn't want any of the trouble that they were bringing. You know, like they were tyrants on the street corner, just, you know, screaming through bullhorns or what have you. And, you know, MLK, it's like, don't get these white folks riled up, you know, like we everything is good here, you know. So, you know, there's so much nuance to the past that we don't really present, you know, in the current times. Like, we just speak of them as, you know, these demigods. And to us, they were, you know, and to me as a kid, you know, they were both like these unattainable figures. But Malcolm X specifically, you know, he gave me something to shoot for. And, you know, knowing that I'll never be Malcolm X, but it's a great, you know, compass to have. You know, where do I measure? you know.
And you and I had never talked about that before today, really, but it makes complete sense in
Why I'm the way
no,
I am.
really, it does. It makes complete sense in who you are. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about, but I
Yeah, yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
ask you
indeed.
this. So did you watch the Who Killed Malcolm X on Netflix? Have you seen that docu-series?
I couldn't finish it. I
Okay.
started. I saw most of it. I think it was a cat in Jersey who recently passed away. Was the gunman?
Well,
Um,
that's what they're claiming. Yeah.
got it. Got it. What did
It's
you think about it?
I thought so the story they're telling is that there's this guy
Hmm.
um who it was an open secret who killed him. They all
Sure.
knew who he was, where he was, and he became not because he killed Malcolm X, but he became he was quite a figure in the neighborhood. He owned businesses and all kinds of things, but people were like, "Yeah, we knew who it was. We know who he is. He's blah
Sure.
blah blah." He was on camera and everything, and then he did pass away.
Right.
Um, but the fact that it was this open secret, and I don't know that it's true, but the way the story is told, it's very intriguing.
Mm. Yeah, I have to revisit it. I mean, I was watching some of it, but you know, this was clear for from day one. You know, like everybody knew. You know, I would say everybody, but you know, those who were in the know. But it's complex, and you know, we
It
never
is
want to
complex, yes.
involve the outside world into our issues. So I try to just look at it from a broad sense, and for me, it's not so much who pulled the trigger. Like I never looked at it as this particular man
Me
killed
either.
him. Yeah, it was more or less like, yeah, what climate led to his demise,
Right. Yeah.
like what was going on in our social sort of constructs that led to him being taken out. So I always looked at it in that way, and not to say it was just clearly the FBI or this person or that person. It was more or less like, if you're a truth teller that speaks with that much timber in your voice, and that there are going to be consequences, so like that was the message.
Yeah.
um
He was and we can move on, but he was unapologetically complete.
oh
Knew
yeah,
who
yeah,
he was.
in more ways than one. You
Oh,
saw the family man, you saw the militant, so it
and so was his wife. Betty is a G. Like, and so this doc shows that. It shows her very differently after he's assassinated. Like
mm,
them sticking mics in her face and asking her questions, and she's looking like, "That's what we doing?
right, right.
You asking me that
I
question?"
saw her. She spoke at my cousin's graduation at Lincoln University, so I got a chance to see her speak. I've seen Tyler Shabazz speak as well,
Yeah,
who
me too. Me too.
yeah was um, extremely engaging. A friend of mine, looking at the comments, Mandisa said that two men spent years in jail for a crime they didn't commit.
Yeah.
So I have to do more knowledge to that, because again, for me, I've always looked at it from a broader context and not really overly concerned with who actually, you know, killed him, but why he died. Was more of my kind of focus. But thank you, Mandy, for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
definitely
point,
do my
and
due
that
diligence.
comes up in the docu-series.
Mm,
Those two guys they actually interviewed.
okay.
I mean, and their alibis, their witnesses. There's all kind of information in doc. It's you should try to get through it, Hans. It's just
Yeah, I have to check it out. I had my on a not so lighter note, I guess. My mother, I believe, went to the party that was at the ballroom the night before he was
really.
assassinated. Yeah, she was young at the time and was partying heavy. So that was like one of that. When I see the movie, I always think about the party the night before, and my mother being there. Um,
Wow.
so cool. Yeah, looking at Mandisa again. Thank you, Mandy. Mandy is a truly righteous sister. We go way back,
Hey,
and
Mandy.
she always, you know, it feels like every woman in my life corrects me. Right? I
I don't know that we're
love it. You know,
correcting you. I think we're just
no,
this.
it's fine. Not correct as if I'm in wrong, but like, I grew up in the family where I'm the youngest of 13 first cousins, right? And
Yeah.
there is majority women. It's about nine women, and then three of us. I'm getting my math wrong. Yeah, but that's always been like my, I recreate that dynamic, I guess, where I have like really strong, knowledgeable women always in my periphery. That's like grab me by my collar.
Right. Is that
Get
what
it
you
right, brother. Get it right. So I love it. I love it. But cool, man. So
So
what
no, so there's we're gonna move on to I want to revisit Ahmaud because of course
mm,
a black
mm,
man can't get killed without being without being criminalized
right,
uh
right.
after he's killed.
Sure.
So I've seen a couple of videos now. One, the most recent about this shoplifting arrest, right?
Well, there's two.
There's
Well, the
two.
most recent is the
The
shoplifting.
most
The other
recent,
one,
the most recent
was,
I saw was the shoplifting arrest. There's
right,
one where he's actually sitting in his car in the park and they pull him out the car. Did they pull him out the car?
sure.
I mean, you don't see all of that, but
They tased them, yeah, and
and then the taser malfunctioned.
right,
So that one set me off, of course, because he's like,
right.
yo, I have one day off. I'm sitting here
I
trying to
felt
get
that.
my mind
Yeah, I
right.
really felt that statement. Yeah,
Right. I'm sitting
yeah,
here trying to get my mind right. And you coming up saying, get out the car and all of this. You want to search my car. Well, there's drug activity over here, but you don't see any. I'm not doing anything. And
right,
then having this whole dialogue with one, and the other one is completely overreacting and
right,
trying to tase him.
right. Yeah, I mean, dehumanization is a long-standing tactic of white supremacy. Like you can't,
Absolutely.
before you exterminate somebody, you have to dehumanize them.
Right.
So Lee Merritt, I believe, the attorney for the family, was saying how criminal is the new black, right?
Right.
Where you can't really exterminate or diminish, diminish someone without exterminate them. And I always parallel this to Hitler and the Holocaust, where before he committed his atrocious act, he made it less atrocious,
Right.
by pulling people out of their homes and dehumanizing them, starving them. So now when he, went to the extermination phase, it was easy for him to do because
Right.
he had like reduced them to a place where, he could move forward with his diabolical plan. So it's no different, it's this is all justification, you know, for homicide, and it's a tactic, it's the handbook. We kind of knew it, once
Yeah.
this happened, I was like, man, if he was suspended in 11th grade, it's coming out,
We already
like,
knew.
yeah, they're gonna dig deep. And I think my message to people when we do have these dialogues is black people, our people, like, look, you can't buy into this, and a lot of times we do, like I recall when Mike Brown was murdered, once that grocery store video was put out, I seen folks in my timeline like, well, like as if to say, well, he's a thug, right? So
Yeah.
because of that, he deserves, it's you inferring that he deserves this sort of treatment, and he should have known better, And I think we have to be very clear that even if a crime was being committed, even if,
Even
even if Ahmad was running down the street with a TV in his hand, like coming out of there with pipes, or
yeah,
even if he doesn't deserve to be executed, stalked, especially by
and
the,
executed in the streets.
yeah, not at all, So
So Hans, what is our responsibility? Because this is
Good question. Yeah.
this is something that really is triggering to me, and is something that I address regularly. What is our responsibility as a community to share or not share this kind of information, to continue to, what I'm saying, repost these videos or
Interesting.
I think we do have a responsibility, and you just said it when we were talking
Malcolm
about
X.
Malcolm X, and like sharing all the family business, right?
Right. Right.
Some things we have to correct in house,
Sure.
but we're a global community, so how do we manage sharing information
Right.
that
Right.
things
Sorry.
we have to correct being criminalized?
Right.
So that's my question. What is it? I think the question really is, who does it serve for us? And I asked this question last week about a different kind of clip, but who does it serve when we're sharing this information? Does it further push their agenda? Does it help
Sure.
us? You know what I'm saying? We're pushing the agenda for other people, the narrative.
If we share the
I think we
sort
just
of
have
character
to,
assassinations, like
yeah,
how to, it's tricky because I shared one, and then my aunt not corrected me, but she she stepped in and she was like, "Take that down right now," and I took it down because both my reality or my desire is to constantly wake up my folks, right? Like make sure you're clear at what you're seeing,
okay,
so that you can
right. I think
manage through it emotionally, and really fix your posture to understand where your defense lies, how to defend the character of this man in his absence, because, you know, nothing changes, man, if we don't kind of have a unified mindset,
right.
and how we're viewing things. So when we look at these articles and we see it, and then now we throw it away, like, well, of course, again, we buy into these narratives.
Yes.
It's cool. It's not cool for them to buy into it, but it's understandable, right? We know this is the lens of racism and the racial contract, but we have to not buy into that, and we have to continue to kind of re-educate ourselves. Like, look, this is coming. We know that this is coming. We know what it is. So for me, that was like my desire to push to post and share my thoughts. And then my aunt was like, "Yo, you should take this down because you're furthering their agenda by, dehumanizing him." So, you know, I don't know, man. I'm torn because I think we have a responsibility to educate ourselves,
I
right?
agree.
Of the tactics of our oppressor, in this society. So that may sting a little bit, it may be uncomfortable, but it's in that uncomfortable space that you start to learn. You start to, your thought process starts firing off, and you now begin to arm yourself with information, so that you can navigate accordingly. So, but I took it down because, I have a wide variety of folks on my timeline, and I know my audience, and I don't just have one specific audience, but
Right.
but I also, some days I'm kind of like, yo, I want people to know I see you, like I see, and I need you to know, quite frankly, like even people outside of our community, like they need to know that we know this ain't, you're not fooling anybody with
Okay.
these tactics. And furthermore, the allies that we're trying to attain, we need them to be clear as well. Like, yo, check your folks, man. Like in a broader sense, like you need to, because it's really these intimate dialogues, man. It's again the racial agreement.
Yeah.
These. You know, we have to push back and put words into the atmosphere that other people can share. So I don't know. Even with the video, I've only seen the video once. I haven't revisited the incident. Where he was murdered.
Oh, the actual
Yeah,
incident.
yeah. So I mean, and I only mention that to say there is a conflict of, you know, what to share, what not to share. Like I don't share those videos, you know, and you know, even this part of the game, you know, again, it's more or less for me, it's like, you know, making sure that we're clear, you know, like that's my personal desire. And it may take sharing uncomfortable information.
I
Um,
think that's fair, Hans.
it is. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
so which video did you share that Auntie was
Well,
like,
it wasn't a video. It was the New York Post article that spoke about his the
shop?
Walmart incident. Yeah, which even in that article, it said that they were unclear what the outcome was. How the hell, you know, you were able to get body camera footage, but you can't find out whether these charges were dropped or not? Like, come on, really? You know, like, or if he was like, it's just, you know, it's just the audacity and the you know, it blows my mind, you know, that they would believe that we're not that intelligent enough to see that, you know. So again, I think it's important for us to talk about those things, to like really, you know, every time, you know, the adversary comes out in the open, we got to point to him
I
and say,
agree.
here he is, you know, like let's like, because racism, man, the gaslighting tactics of racism is long standing, you know, like they will tirelessly work to get you to believe that the devil is not there, you know, like, you know, like he's not really real. And we've known the whole time, you know, this is like innate, you know, from our journey from bondage. Like we know who you are. You're an old foe. You're not new.
Right.
This ain't a new foe. So I just think that at each turn we got to share with each other. Like, see him? You see him, right? There he
I,
goes one
I
more time. Don't be fooled by, you know, him trying to evade and be elusive. Like he's right there.
But
I
I think
told
we
you.
have to be important in how we communicate that to each other. We can't just
Right.
throw a thing out there and not
Think about, you know, all of the effects.
or some
Right.
verbiage really gets into what this thing is. Because I just
Sure.
see too often we're sharing like, oh, he got arrested for shoplifting. Oh, look, here's another, that
Here's
I'm like,
another video. Yeah.
another video without
Who do
any
we benefit from that? Yeah, without the commentary or without really placing it in the proper context. I don't, you know, again, it's tough. I'm torn because I don't want to endorse or reinforce their message. My goal, by and large, is to just highlight the technology. You
yeah,
know, like, you know, like, hey, you know, I'm here too. You don't fool me. You know, like I'm present, and anybody that's in my, you know, bandwidth or wingspan, you know, like I want you to know, yo, there he goes yet again, you know. So you know, that's really my goal, but I took it down. So I can share it. See now in this, you know, on this platform I can give more nuance, you know,
yeah,
as
we
to
and that's what's important. There is so nuanced. This conversation.
contextualize, you know, yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be a battle, you know, and that's basically these are defense tactics. You know, if it didn't come out in public, it's definitely going to come out in court. You know, they're going to go after his character, you
For
know,
sure.
over and over again. And I'm just really hoping that who's ever leading the prosecutorial team sharpens their knives, you know, and is ready for war because you know, it's really going to boil down to that. And again, as we shared on the last one, you know, the jury, like I hope, you know, the people in the county, Black people in that county sign up and are present and available. So jury selection is really, you know, important. So,
It's huge, and I'm glad you brought that up again, and then we can shift to another topic, but
sure.
that's huge. And there were some comments last week when we started talking about doing our civic duty and like making sure we don't ignore those jury summons. That is
Right.
hugely important. And I understand a lot of us, a lot of people of color and immigrants are just, they're scared because of
Black people. Sorry.
previous experience.
People say people of color. I get cringe. But I say it too. But go ahead. Sorry. It's,
What term would you rather use, Hans?
no. I just always like to be specific. And Black people and people of color. It's like that's my new thing now. I say Black people and people of color.
Black people and people of color.
Yeah. Because people of color don't go through what Black people go through. They have their own issues, but they don't go through what we go through. Not historically. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, my point is just that I understand, there have been people who are super afraid to get to participate in anything that has to do with the judicial system, right? Because they've been wronged or they haven't, just previous experiences. But in order for us to have a fair trial, in order for us to put these killers away, we got to do our civic duty. So I just think that's really important to.
And I think that's kind of a great
get on the case.
Sure, that's a kind of a great segue in terms of like our apprehension with the system of any sort. Not just judicial, but pivoting to these SBA loans, the PPP loans, and this huge financial transfer. I think across the board, from the, who wants to willingly walk into a courthouse, right? Like, given our relationship with policing and, longstanding history, you definitely, I've been invited to jury duty in my 20s. And I was like, there's no way in the world I'm signing this and saying, like, I'm just avoiding at all costs because I never, I think by and large, to be Black American, to carry a legacy, right, from enslavement to now, from Jim Crow, through every experience. Michelle Obama said that this was like the first time, when Barack was elected. I can't remember her exact statements, but it was like the first time she felt proud of the country or felt like an American. But by and large, we don't feel like this is our country, like subconsciously. We still operate in a space of being, foreigners in a land that we helped develop. Like we were the workforce that, grew this country to its economic prowess, So I think we have to kind of like transform our thinking and really create an ownership interest, an entitlement. I call it an entitlement. Like we have to become entitled to this country. And that will allow us to look at things different, like as in regards to jury duty, and, speaking specifically to what we came to talk about, which is these PPP loans and, unemployment insurance, for independent contractors and things of that nature. I'm kind of alarmed or startled that so many people I speak to, either have no clue or just no desire to engage.
Afraid of being criminalized for putting themselves out there to get the loan, or if I apply for unemployment, what are they going to dig into in my past? Like, I've had
expose. Yeah. My dad was like, my dad never wanted to like expose himself to the system. Like he would put my little sister on the phone, or he would put me on the phone. Like, but it just, the idea that he had to step into an official place and, and more so because I think he knew his levels of anger would flare up, at the first, at the first remark that was sideways, like what,
right.
Yeah, he would, my dad had PTSD, man, from the war. He was like, yo, don't set me up. So so recently Robert Smith was on CNN talking about how, we as a community cannot waste this crisis.
crisis.
which is something I couldn't find the words the last time we spoke, but it's like, yo, the empire is fractured, is it's off balance, and this is an opportunity for us to step in. And I share with you, but I'll share why. Is I applied for the PPP loan and I was
Yep.
approved. I recently signed my promissory note, and I'm thankful, and it was a moment for me as a businessman. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20, 21 years old.
Right.
Like I started my first business, a barbershop outside of college. Shout out to Heads Up, which the real name of my shop was Semitic Styles, because I was, in my college, I was woke. I was real woke, and I was studying, who the true sons of Shem were, and all, and I was like deep with it. So Semitic Style, then I changed to Divine Style, but Heads Up was the spirit, started by my man Juice, and I basically took over. But I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20, 21, and outside of a few real jobs, that's what I've been defined as. But to get an SBA loan was something I never imagined.
Yeah.
Whether it be in a crisis or any more, like I just felt like this ain't for us. These sort of privileges and opportunities are just not for us. And I think that what I share and what I'm pushing on people, what Robert Smith pushed, is that they are. 94% of Black owned businesses are sole proprietors. Right now,
yes,
they're allowing up to, they have threshold for sole proprietors, but if you have a 1099 and you have a Schedule C from the last year, 2019,
yes,
you need to apply.
you need to apply. And I'm looking at, I'm sorry to jump over you, Hans, but
Sure.
I have a watch party. I'm looking at least 3 entrepreneurs on my watch party, and I hope that you all are taking advantage of this, because listen, money is flowing and we can't be afraid to go get it. We got to get
Sure.
this money is being
Sure.
released. We've been talking about reparations forever.
Forever.
Grab
And this is what reparations could look like. One of the groups that are demanding or advocating for reparations, ADOS, they have, as a entree to the things that they're asking for, is set aside money for Black businesses,
Right.
In the SBA, and I think this can be a case study. What happens here. I'm not the only one that got it. I know, quite a few people, not a vast number, but a small group to the, in my industry, who've applied and who have received it and have the money in their account. So again, for me, is just when they sent me the promissory note, it was like, wow, I'm getting a small business loan. Like I've been scratching and clawing, from, and I've never in my mind thought that that I would ever get a loan, like even from the bank, or, it's like, that's not how my parents conditioned me. And a lot of that, again, comes from my father and his militancy and, the belief system that this isn't your country. These ain't your folks.
Right.
They're not looking out for you. And I'm not saying that they're sensitive and compassionate to my needs, but we're in a new day.
Yes.
And it's important to acknowledge that, that we're in a new day. And, it was to my man, Ron, who asked me, was it an easy process? It actually wasn't. I went through Wells Fargo. So I've had my business account with Wells Fargo since 2012. And so they have access to me. They have my articles of incorporation. Like they know who I am. They know what I do, what my statements are, whatever. And, I actually was lucky enough to do, over the last year, started repairing my credit. Mm-hmm. So this is the other part of the PPP loan, is that they check your credit. And so, working with somebody to help, rebuild my credit, I was able to get it up. And so those things, just three things. All I did was answer the questions. There is some discrimination in it, in that they want to know your criminal history. By the grace of God, I've never been convicted of, any felonies or anything like that. So I cleared that hurdle.
But all of that goes into why so you're saying a bunch of people who have applied and have gotten monies, not just the PPP, but these other resources that are out there. But that just digging in and being exposed is why I know so many musicians and artists who are just like, I don't want to go through all of that. I don't.
Well, certain musicians and certain artists that I know who have accountants, those people kind of activate. They have relationships with banks. Social currency. This is one of the areas that Black people are deficient at, but not, right? Like, if we kind of have our mind fixed in the proper direction, relationships. Who do you know? Anybody that works at a bank, whether they're teller, reach out to those people. Yeah. Say, hey man, let me talk to you.
Yes.
Let's, how do I do this? A lot of artists, of course, have financial advisors who, again, can activate. The bigger banks is not suggested you go to the bigger banks. Again, I was lucky. I did a little Twitter harassment, not harassment. Let me clear that up. But, I went to Wells Fargo early online and was like, yo, I've been applying and I haven't heard back, but you're literally marketing this product with a Black person in the image. How does that work? Just explain that to me. I tweeted them. Yo, in the next 10 minutes, I got an email, and it was first spooky that I tweet somebody and then I get an email. So I'm trying to convince myself that they're not in my affairs, Yeah. I'm trying to convince myself of that, but that's not, I'm having a hard time. So, but I wouldn't suggest, if you don't have a long-standing relationship, wherever you bank is where you should go first. Because now you kind of close the gap, but you can actually apply through PayPal.
Yes, you can.
Which is kind of mind-blowing to me, but you can apply through PayPal. Go ahead. Sorry.
But no, I think that's a great point, because so many artists are using PayPal, like PayPal cards, and they're selling merch and they use PayPal. Like, PayPal is an amazing resource that has a bunch of your history as an independent contractor.
Yeah. It's been a middleman for most independent contractors, since its inception, and I think that's what it was created for. So it's only right that they can be kind of a middleman in this regard, in taking your information to, the larger institutions, or, kind of facilitating, the lending process. But
just saying, she's been trying to and got turned down.
Got turned down.
Keep trying, Gail.
Sure.
This is like we started with this segment. We cannot let this crisis go to waste. I don't think that's exactly how Mr. Smith put it, but he
really did say that. And there's a greater discussion that needs to be had with, like, the Congressional Black Caucus and our advocates, because in this next HEROES Act, there's nothing really specifically for us.
Right.
Black people get folded back into class politics. And not race politics. So now in the HEROES Act, I think there's another stimulus check, but there needs to be more, of the PPE in particular, and additional, set asides and advantages for us, because our repair requires more coming out of this. Even if we just isolated, and what Robert Smith said in his interview was that we can't be left out. We cannot be left out. So he's advocating as a private billionaire.
Yeah, listen, he's like, I don't have a dog in this fight, except that, I'm the advocate and I'm a Black man.
Sure. I mean, and he's legacy. Like he
Right.
understands what this
Legacy.
is about, and it's consistent with him going to Morehouse
Yes.
and relieving debt,
Listen.
versus your guy telling people to pull their pants up. He went down there and he was like, I
Why you
got
got to bash my
nah.
guy?
I mean, I'm not, I don't want to bash him, but I just want to look at the juxtapositions, where
We talk about
he
a billionaire and
a sitting U.S. president. What are you talking about?
we are talking about but we're talking about
He's
a
sitting on
billionaire.
a tank, like he's sitting on an atomic bomb. But, I don't want to pile on, but again, I just wanted to share.
We'll dedicate a whole show to
Yeah. I gotta study a little bit more before I go in on Barry. But
we'll
yeah, I
dedicate.
mean, he's great for the spirit of the nation. I feel like hearing him speak and the graduation ceremony was really great for young folks to kind
For the
of
jabs at 45 alone. Okay.
that's political theater.
Yeah,
Like I don't care about. I mean, whatever. It's entertaining, but to me, what Robert Smith is doing, this is what we need. We need advocates at this level. Somebody who came up, and ascended to a certain space, who's really speaking clearly. Emotions aside, and it's like, look, there's money being handed out. This government is transferring capital to the people, and you got to raise your hand. You got to step out there. So, I would encourage people to, if you're an independent contractor, yet again, unemployment insurance, whatever you get from the state, the federal government is putting $600 a week on top of that.
If it's money,
And
I literally walked someone step by who was like, I don't want to do it. It's gonna open this up. It's gonna my back taxes, blah 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 blah. I was like,
listen,
let's
man,
and got an email a few days ago, like, okay, um,
they got it.
it will be deposited. Yeah.
Listen, go for it. If you were a ride share, if you were any independent business
All
with
of
the
it.
PPE, they essentially take your last 12 years, what you made, divided by 12, and multiplied by 2.5. And it's completely forgiven if you pay, 75% to expenses,
Mhm.
um, um, or salary rather. But for I'm still in the research process of all of the details on the back end, but it's a loan that's forgiven and it's only 1%, right? So even if it isn't forgiven, you have a 1% loan. But it was intended not to be paid back. There was a program created to push money to the economy, to stimulate the economy.
Right.
So,
Exactly. And
you
yeah. But so even beyond the COVID crisis, we have to be educated about grants and all kinds of things, all these monies that are just sitting out there for us
right,
anyway,
right,
as as entrepreneurs, small business owners, all of that.
indeed,
There are all kinds of grant monies available, but we don't have these conversations enough and dig into it enough to know that there's money, there are resources for us. There are
right,
resources for everybody, but we don't hear about it. We don't talk about how to go get this
yeah.
money.
I mean, we see magic now with making $100 million available for small businesses. I haven't, gone through all of the requirements, but the company that he's partnering with, they were also offering PPP applications, or they were facilitating, the application process. So I have to find a name. I'll post it, on the page. What I'd like to do is, maybe invite some people from the financial sector. I have a friend in Philly who's a CPA, but he's scared to come on. But I'm gonna get him to come out.
I think
But
that's important, how it's like some
yeah,
people really break down what
sure.
these loans are. Like the fact that you said it's basically a forgivable loan. It's basically
Yeah.
a grant.
That was the intention, you know,
But that would be
because
right.
yeah, we have to stimulate the economy or we'll collapse. So
Right.
this is also why there's such a rush to reopen, right?
Yes.
It's not solely racially motivated, you know, but there are always, you know, racial implications because, you know, again, Black Americans are, you know, affected disproportionately by COVID-19. But they don't want to keep these states are losing money paying unemployment insurance.
Right. Of course.
So they don't want to keep doing it. And then there's like an outcry from some businesses because people are making more money from the unemployment insurance than they would make,
Exactly.
you know, work, which is bananas.
Right.
But, you know, it's like maybe you shouldn't, you know, but this is America. Cheap labor is, you know,
Wow.
yeah, this is what America is about, American capitalism. So but in the meantime, while everything is in the flux, while this country is trying to repair itself, I think the overarching theme that I want to convey is that you, as a Black American, this is your country too. You are a part of this as well. So first thing you have to do is kind of like fix your mind to understand that and be entitled to
Yes.
the resources that are flowing out and engage them, you know, through whatever channels you have. There will be loopholes, there will be hurdles, but by and large, you know, if you can, you know, get around or not around, but if you have, you know, work for yourself and in any capacity, you know, the government is lending money, you know, because they realize that your business is hurt to no fault of your own, you know,
Right.
and you know, we need to be more engaged. Period.
Okay. So we have a couple more minutes, and I just want to talk about this real quick before we jump off.
Okay.
Excuse me. Iron Mike.
Oh man, are you kidding me? Mike Tyson?
Yes.
I mean,
So he's training. He's go. What are you going?
yo, Iron Mike is a hero to me. You know, like you're talking about. Like again, I was raised in the '80s primarily, so my first feeling when I saw him training, the first video that came out, it was amazingly inspiring.
He looks incredible. So I was like, I didn't even get into the context, right? I just was like, he looks amazing. So to see him,
I don't know if I said it with the same gleam in your eye, you know. Yeah,
I just mean like for his age and like you haven't been in retirement, you know, the way he was moving and stuff. I was like, you got it.
I mean, he's 57, I think, or maybe. No, that's Michael Jordan's 57.
Oh, that's Michael Jordan. Right. That's
I think Mike Tyson maybe like 53, but whatever the case, he's in his 50s, right? And you know, we saw the spiral. It wasn't as broadly shared, but I shared a post on my Instagram of a photo of him, and he had shared in the interview. He says top weight was like in the high 300s. He was like 370 or something, and where he is now, I'm not really sure exactly where he is, but the transformation is amazing, you know? And I mean, granted, he has the wealth and the free time to kind of commit, and dedicate, but the muscle has memory. My mother always says to me, you know, muscle has memory, you know? So if you've had it, you kind of still have it. You just have to engage it. And for me, again, it's like completely inspiring. And I think he talks about doing an exhibition fight. He could,
like for charity or something.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I pay to see him go 5 rounds with anybody. You know, any contender, any like current dude. Like I mean, the two heavyweight cats that are heavyweight champion was the Irish cat. Can't remember his name, but he's like 6'9". Mike is 5'11".
Yeah, Mike. Mike. And you know, we always knew he wasn't the tallest.
Yeah, but I say that because if he putting him in a ring with, you know, one of those cats, you know, it just may not be evenly matched. Not that they would have an advantage over him, but it just would look awkward, you know, that a 5'11" dude is fighting a 6'9" cat.
Yesterday, Evander released a video yesterday.
Oh yeah, I'm not so hopeful for. I'm not as hopeful for the real deal, Holyfield. But the real deal is the real deal. But it's just like, dog, I don't know. You don't have the same snap, like
I
Mike.
mean, so that's why I brought it up because when I saw it, I
Like,
saw
nah,
Mike.
dog, nah, dog.
Mike, right? Mike looks so great. I
Yeah.
mean, just the way he's moving, I was like,
I was
God.
wondering, like, is he speeding the camera up? So, like you could do
Right?
tricks in editing, but I didn't. I was like, you know what, that's real. He's really
He
got.
looked so great. And then I looked at Evander last night. I was like, oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Nah, he. I don't know. I don't know, dog. You might want to sit this one out, but for the sake of Vegas and a nice little exhibition, I think that I hope that they don't get back in there, but maybe Mike can step in there with Roy Jones Jr. or something. I think he might be in good shape, or
You think?
I mean, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. There's a possibility, but it'll be cool to see again. I feel 17 all over again, 16, like 14, 15. Watching him, like I felt like the structure of my life is getting back in order, because I grew up in a world where Mike Tyson was like this super athlete. Like he turned the clock back for himself, which kind of turns the clock back for everybody else. Like, wow. And the belief that you can turn the clock back. Like, if you set aside time. So listen, never say never, but I may be at an NBA tryout next year. I'm inspired. I might hobble back. I might be able to turn the clock back and crank up this jump shot, see what's happening. But yeah, man, Iron Mike, Messiah type.
Yep.
Brooklyn. Yep. I was born in Brownsville. I just want for the record, I was born in Brookdale Hospital.
Okay.
Even though I come from a Bed-Stuy family, which most of us, but for the record, I was born in Brownsville. So shout out. Shout out to Mike in Brownsville, Never ran, never will, Have you seen him on The Last OG? When he's on the roof, he's like this guru on the roof. It's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry.
Mike is hilarious though. Is he not? Did you see his one-man show like some years ago? He did a whole.
I did.
It was great.
Yeah, man. Mike is. Yeah, this is Mike Tyson, man. I mean, he's got a myriad of personalities. He's actually intelligent. I think he gets a bad rap because he's had like GIF moments right before social media. He's always had those moments where it's like, yo, this dude is wild. But
BK stand up.
Yeah, lick shots, yo. Shout out to Shorty Black. My older cousin used to run with Mike. So, I'm a New Yorker, man, so we got access, yo. But yeah, I remember the first time I saw Mike Tyson in a party at the Gate on La Cienega. You didn't grow up in LA, did you?
I did.
Okay. You remember the Gate on La Cienega? Okay. He said, of course. When my first trip to LA was in '99. I came with my man Rick Small and a couple of other cats from Virginia State. We stayed with DJ Paradise. Remember Paradise used to be on the beat. Shout out to Paradise. We stayed on Manchester at the O'Connell Lodge. Can you imagine staying at the O'Connell Lodge on Manchester right now? But not. And Dice lived on Queen Street around the corner, so we stayed and again we his Source Awards '99. We came out to have a good time, and we stayed there. And then my first night in LA, straight from the airport, I went to Peanuts, which was a club.
I remember Peanuts.
Peanuts, yeah. Peanuts was having the party for Soleil, who was signed to DreamWorks at the time. So they had a listening party. So Dice got us in a listening party. Like I wasn't even in the music business. This was the weekend that did it though. But I came that night. So I went to Peanuts, to a Soleil release party. From there, we went to World on Wheels, to a Def Jam party. And Jam Master Jay, Eminem, Outkast, Murder Inc., Ja Rule's. Like, it was like amazing, right? And left so we stayed. That was the first night. So later on in that week, we went to the gate, and there was a party, and we saw Mike Tyson in there, and it was just like, we were all from New York, Brooklyn primarily, and Mike was a god, man, and he was scary, right? Like you, you didn't want to, if he looked your way, you kind of slid to the side, like you just didn't want to be in his line of sight because, he was really that guy, 100%. That, on and off the court, that he didn't want that smoke, Mike Tyson. So, even now it's like, yo, you see that guy getting hit in his ribs, you're like, dude, I know you're hurt, dog. He woke up sore. I bet money on that.
There's no way he didn't. I was like, the way those.
Yeah. He woke up in the morning grabbing pain pills, like, yo, I need a minute, Mike. Give me a second. Let's go tomorrow. Let's not go today, dog. So
I never met Mike, but I was in Vegas the night of the infamous ear biting situation.
Oh, wow.
And wow. I saw him riding up and down the street on his bike, wilding.
Right. And nobody say a word to him. And nobody got another. Yeah, usually people just don't ride their bikes in certain neighborhoods, but nobody got nothing. Nah, he's. I mean, it's Mike Tyson, man. So I'm hoping. I think we need this. I think anytime you have, especially in this moment in time where hopelessness, is permeating. It can spread really fast. When you see moments or you see people that provide inspiration, it's necessary for us,
I agree.
Yeah. And even the Jordan Last Dance, we talked a little bit about, it's triumphant stories, and I think we as a people, man, always benefit from seeing our people triumph, no matter what the odds are, no matter the steps, the missteps, all of the steps, we just love seeing them overcome. And, seeing Mike Tyson right now overcome his, decisions or, whatever happened, in the interim, wherever he is now is a great place, and it's inspiring.
It's nice to see him in this space. He looks healthy. He looks solid. Yeah.
Right.
It's really inspiring.
I always thought he and I are like the same size, like height, and my dad. This is my last. Well, I'm always gonna talk about my father, but the last conversation I had with my dad in person was that I should have played baseball. That's like the last thing. What I mean? It was always you too slow, you not this, you not that, and then after all these years of what could have been, in basketball or football, my assessment was I probably should have played football. I never thought about. I boxed a little as a child in O'Connell Park in Queens. They used to have like a rec center with a gym, and I remember going in a few times, but it was something that I never really took serious. But I do think about other sports that I could have played, so that I would be like a celebrity by now. A big deal. I'm
You are a celebrity,
huh? I'm a ghetto celebrity. I can point you to a couple of street corners.
I know those Hans Elter.
Hey, not my avatar, the real me. But man, this was awesome. We're trying to keep it short. I don't want to be on here talking for 2 hours. I want to be because I could. I definitely can. But most people that know me know that I don't talk a lot. So this is kind of a new thing. That's like a joke. You're supposed to laugh. There's a punchline in there. But
same bad channel, same bad time next week.
Same bad channel, same bad time. I'm gonna try to get my man Desmond Hudson. I'm gonna call him out. He's in Philly. He works for an organization that puts funds into underserved communities. His company is actually offering the PPP loan, but they are only offering for payroll, not independent contractors. But he has a good wealth of knowledge on you know, the how the process works and what we should be kind of focusing on. So I'm gonna try to get him on, but I really want, you know, somebody that who's an expert in the space. You know, I can only speak from my personal journey, but you know, I need an expert. So cool, man. So I know you gotta hop on the call. So thank you again for you know, hopping on with me. And next week we're gonna do it again.
Okay.
All right. All right, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.